Hi guys, and welcome back to this week's video. If you're feeling stuck in your life right now, if you're feeling like no matter how hard you try, you can't seem to take any steps forward, then today's video is for you. I want to offer you a perspective, a mindset shift perhaps, to see your life differently, to see your current situation differently, and offer my thoughts onto why you might be feeling like that, and how you can make changes, active changes, to start living the life that you want to live, to stop feeling stuck and start moving forward. I was reading this book recently, Every Moment Was You, by the Korean poet Ha Taewon, and there was a poem in there that really struck me. It really stood out, and it got me thinking about the topic that eventually became today's video. Now, most of the poems in here are about relationships and how we move on or don't move on from relationships. And it actually says Notes on Loving and Parting as the subhead of the book. And it's been very successful in Korea. It sold over 1 million copies. And it's an excellent book. I recommend you have a look at it. But this one particular poem called Missing the Past really stood out, and I found it quite interesting. It's very short. It's just 5 lines, and I'll just read it to you now. When we're missing the past, are we having lingering regrets over the what could have beens, or disappointment in the present? And it's really interesting because when I speak to people and they tell me that they feel stuck, and we start to have a conversation over why that is, I find more often than not it's because they're still living in the past. They're still holding on to things from their past life. The what haves and the what might have happened and the what could have beens and all of these things. And they hold on to these emotionally, and they also hold on to many physical things. And I know myself, I've been guilty of this. Because that feels safe, looking back at the past. But what you've got to remember that if you're looking back because you think, okay, I'm keeping my options open, one day I might come back to that, one day I might come back to that dream, one day I might come back to that thing. Instead of keeping your options open, what you're actually doing is keeping wounds open. Now, those things may not have happened for a reason. And you've got to address that. Because as I've talked about in other videos, you can't keep hundreds and hundreds of what I call open loops existent in your life. You can't live like that. It places a huge neurological debt on your life if you're constantly living with all of this baggage, all of these objects around you that might one day come in handy. And now that's not to say that they may not be useful one day, and you may come back to some idea that you had a long time and make it into something new. But that's not the point. Yes, they may exist, these one things that may happen again, but for most of the stuff that we carry around with us, it actually holds us back. It actually keeps us stuck. Because what tends to happen is we replay these things over and over again in our head. We replay what might have happened, what might still happen, were we to return to it. But this mental rehearsal is actually more work for us. It keeps us stuck in this cycle, this loop. We keep going back and going over these things. What if I'd spoken differently? What if I'd asked a different question? What if I'd done this? What if I'd pursued a career in a different field? What if I'd tried harder? What if I'd waited? What if it still happens? What if this could be my big break? What if I'm giving up? All of these things, you can't just keep having them in the back of your head, and you may not consciously be going over them all the time, but subconsciously you are, and subconsciously your brain returns to these things. And that keeps you feeling stuck. And as I said before, it's not just emotional, mental things. It's actually physical things too. One of the best examples is books. And I think that's why Marie Kondo, quite controversially, when she first came out, started to talk about decluttering and removing books from your life. All that concept of the books that I still have to read. You know, I was a prime example of it. I would buy books because I thought it was an interesting topic and it's something that I would research and maybe write a story about or do something in that area. And I would stack up all these books, knowing that I was probably never going to get back to them, knowing I was never going to write that story or paint that picture or make that artwork, buy the art supplies. I was a real classic for that. buying lots and lots of art supplies, thinking that one day I'd get the time to make more art. And I may, but it may manifest in a different way. And so holding on to these things now just gives me that debt, makes me keep going back to it, always keeps it in the back of the head. Every time I go into the garage and I see those objects there, see those paint cans there, I'm reminded, oh yeah, I'm supposed to do that one day. And that keeps me stuck. So when you get into this situation where you constantly keep yourself stuck, you can't grow. You keep coming back to the same thing, you keep going over it, and you're like suspended between two worlds. The past and what you could have become and could have done and could have been, and who you are today. And yeah, this is not about forgetting about the past. As I've said, the past is often information. It's lessons that you can learn from to help change your present. But you need to understand that that is your past, and you need to focus on now and where you're moving. What's your next step? Which direction are you heading in? What is the journey that you're on? Because that's the real key, focusing on the journey that you're moving towards. And those things have colored in and they've come and they've gone, and they've created the picture that is you today, and that's great. But it doesn't mean that you need to hang on to them. It is okay to let go. It is okay to cut back and strip back. I've spoken in a previous video about curating your life, and the art of true curation is about stripping back. It's taking away, not wanting to put everything in and keep everything in there, because we can't. We physically can't, mentally can't hold on to everything. That's why you keep feeling stuck. So if you've come to this video today feeling like you're stuck in your life, feeling like you can't move forward, ask yourself the honest question, is it because I'm holding on to things in my past? And if that's the case, which ones can I let go? Which ones can I move on from, close off? And you can ask yourself the question, is this something that I'm building and growing as part of my future, part of my life today? Or is it something I'm holding on to on the off chance that it may come back around? And if the answer is the latter, if you're hanging on to it because it feels safe, you don't want to let it go because of all these things that could have been in the past, then you need to let it go. You need to move forward. You need to make the conscious decision that, no, that is my past. I'm not hanging on to those moments because that's stagnating me in the present. That's keeping me stagnant. That's keeping me stuck. The last couple of lines of this poem are worth reading again. You know, are you lingering over regrets of what could have been, or actually disappointments in the present? And if that's you, if you're disappointed with where you are now, then let's take active steps towards helping you create the life that you want to live. I've got in place a system. I mean, helping people to redesign their lives and create the lives that they want to live, to take active steps towards building that life that they won't be disappointed in. Because if you are disappointed in today and you're turning back to your past, trying to unlock some lesson, some secret that may help you, you need to be really careful. Because ultimately all those things that are there in our past are in our past for a reason. And if we're too reflective on them, if we're too give them too much credit, if we put too much emphasis on them, then they will hold us back. They will keep us feeling stuck moving forward. And you need to think really carefully about that. So I hope this video has been helpful. If you want more information on how you can create the life that you want to live, how you can take those active steps towards redesigning your life, then subscribe to my channel and check out some of my older videos. There's lots of really good information and tips that I share about my own journey of transforming my life, my own process, and I'm hoping that they might be helpful to you in the redesigning of your life. But thank you for giving me your time today. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. I hope this video has been helpful in helping you to reframe where you are today. Because you're not broken. You're not damaged. You just need to start re-entering your life. Take all the lessons and redesign the life that you want to live. Take that information and build something new. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.